Now, some people say that Nietzsche was not an altruist, and that's bullshit. You can see it right here. He loves sacrifice. I love him who lives to know. I love him who works and invents to build a house for the overman, to prepare earth, animal, and plant for him.
This is a way of saying that he likes progress. He loves progress. He loves those that will work so that a better kind of person can walk this earth. You know, I might put it that someone who would work so that the meek really can inherit the earth. You know, but we're a part of a warlike era. We have warlike tendencies we don't even understand yet. But we can still work for the day that would come, those kind of people that we would think were more evolved than us.
I love him who loves his virtue, for virtue is the will to go under, and an arrow of longing. Pause for just a minute there. He was attacking virtue a minute ago, saying, whatever, he had syphilis, he was dying.
This is why Nietzsche is thought to be self-contradictory. You're noticing these contradictions. But again, this is true in a lot of Nietzsche. It could be, analyzed one way or another way. And this is intentional.
Pretty thick sentence there. Like I said, he's insane. Getting addicted to virtue will probably make you a billionaire. Huh? One virtue is more virtuous than two, is more virtue than two. You have two virtues, it'll cut you down in your total amount of virtue, because it is more of a noose on which his catastrophe may hang. Virtues lead to catastrophe. Oh, what a confused philosopher.
He's not confused, not on this. You see, strengths are related to weaknesses. Let's say somebody's virtue was being strong-willed and standing up for right and wrong. Well, then their fault is going to be one time when they got that wrong end of the stick and they stood up for something they shouldn't have. Your virtues can lead to disaster, especially if you become addicted to them. Because you can only become addicted to thinking you're virtuous, really, in the end. So it's not a happy state of affairs. And I think that's what Nietzsche is referring to.
I love him whose soul squanders itself, who wants no thanks and returns none. For he always gives away and does not want to preserve himself. Now let's write just right now. Put away the idea that selfishness was an idea that came from Nietzsche and went to Ayn Rand. You're not supposed to be selfish, you're supposed to sacrifice yourself to the overman. And the overman presents himself. And you do what you can for him when he does. It's called a dictator. This is Platonic. This is right out of the Republic. This is the philosopher king is coming. It's our job to make him come. Do what you can to help it along. The idea that Nietzsche was up on selfishness is bizarre. He was up on self-sacrifice to a different goal.
Well, I think there's truth in what you say. I don't think that Nietzsche invented the brand or advocated the brand of selfishness you find in Ayn Rand, or the interpretation of it. On the other hand, I think this is a couple of subtle things that have to be taken into account if you want to talk about Nietzsche, as opposed to Zarathustra. Zarathustra is making these statements, not Nietzsche. Nietzsche's own statements are more about being the overman. And in a way, I think the implication is the overman is the overcoming person. In other words, the overman himself is continually overcoming himself and moving on. So in a sense, you can be the overman now by taking this perspective. And the overman is not a final goal. There is a continual overcoming that every idea we have that we come up with, that we believe, is just a step that we will also overcome and believe something better by our own definition, which we find through our affirmative attitude towards living. We want to live well and feel like we're living well and have healthy happiness and virtue and so on. So, you're going down this road of taking the dictatorial interpretation of Nietzsche, and you're doing it twofold, because you're taking it out of the words of a character that he is writing about, whose ideas he himself had already overcome.
Under promise, over deliver. Here's another one. Leave 5 minutes early. You never know what kind of opportunity you'll run into along the way. These are from fast food industry philosophy. Back to Nietzsche, shall we? I love him who chastens his God. I love him whose soul is deep even in being wounded, and who can perish of a small experience. It was said of Ayn Rand that sometimes a small comment or something would set her into a rage, and people would be like, that wasn't too big of a deal. And I love him whose soul is over full, so that he forgets himself, and all things are in him, thus all things spell his going under. That verges on Eastern mysticism. That's crazy. I love him who has a free spirit. When Zarathustra had spoken these words, he beheld the people again and was silent. There they stand, he said to his heart. Do not understand me. What do they call that which makes them proud? Education, they call it. It distinguishes them from the goat herds. The time has come for man to set himself a goal. The time has come for man to plant the seed of his highest hope. And thus spoke Zarathustra to the people.